Hi, guys. In this week's tip of the week, I am going to cover what we didn't see in class this Tuesday evening, and that is how to create blobs out of shape objects or shape layers in After Effects. So, this is a pretty straightforward exercise, and that is we're going to try to create something that looks like this. So, basically, something that looks very liquidy. And for this, we're going to simply use shapes inside After Effects. So, now the goal is to create that melting animation in between shapes. So how do we go about doing that? Well, let's start by creating a new composition. And I'm going to make it 1280 by 720 and 30 FPS. What we've been working with in class, and I'm going to make it about 5 seconds long, which is more than plenty. And on this composition, I'm going to create a new a new shape object, sorry. And then inside that shape object, I'm going to add an ellipse. And this can work with any shape, by the way. So I'm just using an ellipse for now, and I'm going to add a fill to it. So with that ellipse, what I want to do is I want to do any number of things. I can either do this by doing duplicates of layers, and then pre-composing those duplicates, or I can do this by using ellipses within one single shape layer, which is what we did in class. So for that, I would create a copy of that ellipse and create another fill for that one if I want to, or I just simply use one fill for the entire thing. In this case, I want to use one fill for the entire thing, and I want to create two shape layers, two paths inside this composition. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new composition path right here, a new path inside that shape layer. So what I want to do at this point is I want to animate their positions independently. So I'm going to start both of them at the same spot. And then I am going to move in about 1 second. I am going to be moving the second path down below this way. And I'm also going to be moving the other one. So I'm going to do it by the number. So let's go 300, for example. And I'm going to also move this to 300. Whoops, that was scaling, sorry. And I am going to move this to 300 on the y-axis as well. And then I'm just simply going to offset the, well, actually, I need to create keyframes for those two first. So I apologize about that. And basically, they're both moving at the same time. I'll just simply need to offset the positioning value of one versus the other so that one looks like it's chasing the other, like so. And that's pretty much the setup that we have. So those two layers, now I can play with the scaling value or even the shapes of the objects at this point to get more of the particular shape that you're trying to liquefy. And with that done, what I want to do is on top of that layer, I want to add a couple of filters. The first filter I want to add is a Gaussian blur or a fast blur. I just need to blur the whole thing. So if I go for fast blur, that could work, fast box blur, or I could also use a Gaussian blur. So if I type blur, I have all of my presets, but I also have all the filters that apply blurring onto my shapes. And in this case, I want to use the Gaussian blur, let's say. So if I apply Gaussian blur to that, I can just go, actually, I can apply it directly to that, or I can apply it if I want to maintain it as a separate piece of information, like a smart object in Photoshop, I can apply it to an adjustment layer. So I'll right click, create a new adjustment layer, and apply the Gaussian blur to the adjustment layer. Now, anything that's underneath that adjustment layer will receive whatever filter changes I'm making to that particular filter in the adjustment layer. So if I decide to add more shapes afterwards inside my shape layer or any other series of shape layers, as long as they're underneath the shape layer, what I'm doing will be applied to them. In this case, I want to blur this to about 40 pixels. And so that gives you that blurriness. And I need that to be the thing that melts the information, as you can see. Because it's blurry, the shapes look like they're melting into one another. So with that done, what I want to do at this point is I want to choke that information. I want to make sure that I basically eliminate the glow or the fuzz, the feathered area around created by the Gaussian blur. So for that, I want to add another filter called matte choker, simple matte choker. There it is. So when I apply that, I need to make sure that the choke matte value matches that of the blurriness that I've applied on the blur filter. So if I make that 40, suddenly my shape looks like super sharp. And when I play the animation, it creates that feel that the one droplet is melting into the other. So that is how that was achieved. The combination is Gaussian blur and simple choker. And the key takeaway is that the blurriness and the choke matte match each other.